There is something about the way Libra handles money that most people never talk about. And honestly, it might be the very thing keeping you stuck in the same financial pattern year after year. You clicked on this video because something inside you already knows there is a better strategy, a calmer way to build wealth, a method that does not require you to stress yourself into exhaustion. And you are absolutely right. But here is the part that might surprise you. The strategy is not about working harder, saving more aggressively, or cutting every small pleasure out of your life. The better strategy, the one that will actually let you feel calm while using it, has everything to do with how your sign naturally processes decisions, relationships, and value itself. Most financial advice out there was not designed for you. It was designed for people who think in straight lines, who can shut off their emotions and just follow a spreadsheet. But you are not wired that way, and that is not a weakness. That is actually your greatest financial advantage once you learn how to use it properly. Over the next several minutes, I am going to walk you through 10 specific money strategies that align with the way Libra actually thinks, feels, and moves through the world. These are not generic tips you have heard 1,000 times before. These are precise, energy-aligned approaches that work with your natural tendencies instead of against them. And if you stay until the end, you will understand exactly why the calm approach is not just the comfortable choice. It is the profitable one. So settle in, because this is going to change the way you think about every dollar that passes through your hands. Tip 1. Stop treating every financial decision like a courtroom debate. Here is something that happens to Libra more than almost any other sign. And it costs you real money every single time it shows up. You turn every financial decision into an internal courtroom debate. Should I buy this or save that money? Should I invest here or wait for something better? Should I take this opportunity or hold off for the perfect moment? And while you are weighing both sides with the precision of a judge, the opportunity quietly walks out the door. This is not about being indecisive in a general sense. You are actually one of the most thoughtful decision makers in the entire zodiac. The problem is that you apply the same level of deliberation to a small purchase that you would apply to a major life investment. You give equal weight to every choice, and that equal weighting creates a kind of paralysis that drains your energy and your wallet at the same time. Think about the last time you spent 30 minutes going back and forth about whether to buy something that cost less than what you would spend on a meal. Think about how many hours of your life have been consumed by debates that, in the end, did not matter at all. Those hours add up. That mental energy adds up. And the exhaustion from constantly weighing every option means that when a truly important financial decision shows up, you are already tired before you even begin to think about it. The better strategy is to create what I call decision tiers. Not every financial choice deserves the same amount of your attention. Small purchases under a certain amount that you set for yourself, those get decided in under 60 seconds. You either want it and it fits within your weekly allowance, or you do not. No debate needed. Medium decisions, things like a new appliance, a subscription service, a piece of furniture, those get a 24-hour window. You think about it for one day and then you decide. That is it. No going back to reconsider after the decision is made. The big decisions, investments, career moves, large purchases, those are the ones that deserve your full Libra deliberation power. Those are the ones where your ability to see every angle becomes a genuine superpower. But here is the key that most Libras miss entirely. Once you have made a decision in any tier, you close the case. The judge has ruled. The verdict is in. You do not reopen the trial 3 days later because you saw something on sale somewhere else. You do not second-guess yourself into a spiral of regret. You trust the process you set up and you move forward. This one shift alone will save you more money than any budgeting app ever could, because the real cost of indecision is not just the money you spend. It is the money you fail to act on while you are busy deliberating about things that do not matter. The wealthy people who share your sign learned this lesson early. They built systems that handle the small decisions automatically so their mind stays fresh and sharp for the choices that actually move the needle. And that is exactly what you need to start doing right now, today, before another week of mental exhaustion disguised as careful thinking costs you another opportunity you did not even notice passing by. Tip 2. Use your natural sense of balance to build a budget that actually feels good. Most budgeting advice makes Libra feel like they are being punished. Cut this, restrict that, deny yourself this pleasure, sacrifice that experience. And for a sign that is literally represented by the scales of balance, that kind of extreme restriction feels like torture. It goes against every fiber of who you are. So you try the strict budget for a week, maybe two, and then you swing to the opposite extreme and overspend to compensate for how deprived you felt. Then the guilt kicks in and you try to restrict again, and the whole cycle repeats itself month after month, year after year. But here is what nobody tells you. The reason those budgets fail is not because you lack discipline. It is because those budgets were designed by people who do not understand balance the way you do. They see balance as cutting things equally from every category. You understand balance as something much deeper, much more nuanced. For you, balance means that every area of your life gets adequate nourishment, not equal restriction. So instead of building a budget that tells you what you cannot have, build one that ensures you have enough of everything that matters to you. Start by identifying the 5 or 6 categories that genuinely bring quality to your life. Maybe that is your living space, your social experiences, your personal care, your creative pursuits, your health, and your long-term security. Those are not luxuries. Those are the pillars that keep your scales level. Now assign each of those categories a percentage of your income that feels generous, not restrictive. If you love having a beautiful home environment, do not slash your home budget to the bone, and then wonder why you feel miserable every time you walk through the door. Give that category room to breathe. If social connection feeds your soul, budget for dinners and gatherings without guilt. The key is that every category gets attention, and no single category is allowed to consume everything. That is true Libra balance. When your social spending starts creeping into your savings percentage, the scales tip and you feel it immediately. Not because a spreadsheet told you that you overspent, but because your own internal sense of harmony sends you a signal. You already have the most sophisticated budgeting tool ever created built right into your nervous system. You just need to set up the structure that lets it function properly. The other critical piece is building what I call a beauty buffer into your budget. This is a small, dedicated amount of money each month that exists solely for the purpose of adding beauty, comfort, or aesthetic pleasure to your life. It might go toward fresh flowers for your table, a new piece of art, a quality candle, or an upgrade to something you use every day. This is not frivolous spending. For Libra, beauty is fuel. When your environment feels beautiful, your decision-making improves, your stress decreases, and ironically, you end up spending less on impulse purchases because you are not trying to fill an aesthetic void with random shopping. The beauty buffer is a strategic investment in your mental clarity, and it pays dividends that no financial advisor would ever think to calculate. When you build a budget around abundance and balance rather than restriction and punishment, something remarkable happens. You actually stick with it, not because you are forcing yourself, but because it feels right, feels like you. And that calm feeling of alignment, that is the foundation of every wealthy Libra's financial life. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. Learn the difference between investing in quality and falling for expensive. This is a distinction that can completely transform your financial life, and it is one that Libra struggles with more than almost any other sign. You have an eye for quality. You can walk into a room and immediately identify the finest piece of craftsmanship, the most elegant design, the most tasteful option. That refined sensibility is genuinely beautiful, and it is part of what makes you who you are. But here is where it gets expensive. Somewhere along the way, you started confusing the highest price with the highest quality, and those two things are not always the same. Marketing professionals know exactly how to target someone with your aesthetic sensibility. They know that if they wrap a mediocre product in gorgeous packaging, place it in an elegant setting, and attach a premium price tag, you will feel drawn to it almost magnetically. And you will justify the purchase by telling yourself that you are investing in quality, when in reality, you are investing in presentation. True quality is about durability, functionality, craftsmanship, and long-term value. A well-made jacket that costs a moderate amount and lasts for 10 years is a better quality investment than a designer jacket that costs 5 times as much and falls apart after 3 seasons. A solidly built piece of furniture from a skilled craftsperson is often superior to the trendy designer piece that looks stunning in photographs but wobbles after 6 months. The strategy here is to develop what I call quality literacy. Before you make any significant purchase, learn enough about the product category to distinguish genuine quality from expensive branding. Read about materials. Understand construction methods. Learn what separates something that will last from something that merely looks like it should last. This does not mean you have to become an expert in everything. It means spending 20 minutes researching before spending $200 purchasing. And here is the beautiful irony. When you develop genuine quality literacy, you actually end up with more beautiful things in your life, not fewer. Because instead of a closet full of expensive items that disappointed you after the initial excitement wore off, you have a curated collection of truly excellent pieces that bring you joy every single time you use them. That is the Libra dream right there. A life surrounded by genuine quality, not a life drowning in expensive mediocrity. The other shift that needs to happen is releasing the belief that spending less on something means you deserve less. There is a quiet voice in many Libras that whispers that choosing the more affordable option is somehow beneath them, that it reflects a lower standard or a compromised life. That voice is not your intuition. That voice is marketing that got inside your head years ago and never left. The most financially successful Libras I have observed share one common trait. They are ruthlessly honest about the difference between what genuinely adds quality to their lives and what simply carries a quality-adjacent price tag. They buy the best where it matters most to them, and they happily choose the practical option everywhere else. They do not feel diminished by saving money on things that do not truly enhance their daily experience. They feel empowered because every dollar saved in one area becomes a dollar available for something that genuinely matters. Start practicing this distinction today. The next time you reach for the most expensive option, pause and ask yourself, am I choosing this because it is truly the best quality, or am I choosing it because the price makes me feel like I am getting the best quality? That one question, asked honestly, will save you thousands over the course of a year. Tip 4. Stop lending money to keep the peace. This one is going to sting a little bit, but you need to hear it because it is probably costing you more than you realize. Libra has a deep, almost primal need for harmony in relationships. Conflict feels physically uncomfortable to you in a way that other signs simply do not experience. When someone you care about asks to borrow money, saying no feels like you are introducing dissonance into the relationship. It feels like you are choosing money over the person. And for a sign that values connection as deeply as you do, that feels almost unbearable. So you say yes, even when you cannot really afford it. Even when your gut tells you that you will never see that money again. Even when this is the third or fourth time the same person has asked. You say yes because saying no feels like it will disrupt the peace, damage the relationship, create awkwardness that you will have to navigate for weeks or months afterward. But here is what you are not seeing in that moment. By saying yes when you should say no, you are not preserving harmony at all. You are actually creating a much deeper disharmony that will surface later. You are building resentment inside yourself. Every time you check your bank account and feel that twinge of frustration because your balance is lower than it should be, resentment grows. Every time that person posts about a vacation or a new purchase while still owing you money, resentment grows. And eventually, that resentment poisons the very relationship you were trying to protect. The money did not save the friendship. The money slowly destroyed it from the inside out. The calm strategy is to establish a personal lending policy and communicate it clearly before anyone asks. You might decide that you never lend money to friends or family, period. That is a perfectly valid boundary. Or you might decide that you are willing to give a small gift with no expectation of repayment, but you do not do loans. Whatever policy you choose, the key is that it exists before the emotional pressure of someone asking forces you into a decision you will regret. When someone does ask to borrow money, you can say something like, I have a personal rule about lending money, and it is not about you specifically. I have found that mixing money with relationships changes things in ways I do not want. I value our relationship too much to put it at that risk. Notice what happened there. You framed the boundary as protecting the relationship, which is actually true. And for Libra, framing things in terms of relational harmony makes them much easier to enforce. You are not being selfish. You are being wise. You are recognizing that financial entanglement with the people you love almost always creates more conflict than it prevents. The peace you think you are buying by saying yes is actually just a delayed conflict with compound interest attached to it. And here is something else to consider. The people who genuinely care about you will respect this boundary. They might be momentarily disappointed, but they will understand. The people who get angry, who pressure you, who try to make you feel guilty for having this policy, those reactions are actually giving you valuable information about the health of that relationship. True friends do not demand that you compromise your financial well-being to prove your loyalty. That is not friendship. That is financial manipulation wrapped in emotional language. Start building this boundary now before the next request comes in. Practice saying it out loud if you need to. Write it down and keep it somewhere visible. Because the next time someone asks, the emotional pressure will be intense, and you need your response to be automatic, not something you have to construct in the moment while your desire for harmony is screaming at you to just say yes. Tip 5. Create a financial partnership strategy that actually works for you. Libra is the sign of partnership, and that extends deeply into your financial life whether you realize it or not. You are naturally inclined to merge resources, to share financial responsibilities, to build wealth collaboratively rather than in isolation. And when this tendency is handled well, it can be one of your greatest financial advantages. 2 incomes, shared expenses, complementary skills, mutual accountability. Partnership done right can accelerate wealth building dramatically. But when it is handled poorly, and it often is, partnership becomes the single biggest threat to your financial stability. The most common mistake Libra makes in financial partnerships is avoiding difficult money conversations in the name of keeping things pleasant. You would rather gloss over a spending disagreement than sit down and hash it out. You would rather absorb an unfair financial arrangement than risk the discomfort of renegotiating. You tell yourself that bringing up money issues will create tension, so you stay quiet, and the imbalance grows and grows, and grows until one day it becomes a crisis that could have been a simple conversation 6 months earlier. The calm strategy is to build regular financial check-ins into any partnership, whether that is a romantic partnership, a business partnership, or even a close friendship where you share expenses like housing or travel. These check-ins are not confrontations. They are maintenance. Think of them the same way you think of cleaning your home. You do not wait until the house is a disaster to start tidying up. You maintain it regularly so that it never reaches a crisis point. A monthly money conversation where you review shared expenses, discuss upcoming financial goals, and address any concerns before they become resentments. That is not stressful. That is actually deeply calming, because it removes the ambient anxiety of unspoken financial tension that Libra carries in the body like a low-grade fever. In these conversations, use language that emphasizes collaboration rather than blame. Instead of saying, "You spent too much on this," try, "I noticed our spending in this category was higher than we planned. How should we adjust going forward?" That collaborative framing turns a potential conflict into a shared problem-solving exercise, and Libra thrives in collaborative problem-solving. Another critical element of your financial partnership strategy is maintaining your own financial identity within any shared arrangement. This does not mean hiding money or being secretive. It means ensuring that you always have resources that belong solely to you, accounts in your name, investments you manage independently, a financial foundation that exists regardless of the partnership status. This is not about distrust. This is about the fundamental Libra principle of balance. A partnership where one person has no independent financial identity is not balanced. It is dependent, and dependency creates exactly the kind of power imbalance that makes your scales scream. The most financially healthy Libra partnerships I have observed all follow a similar structure. Shared accounts for shared expenses and goals, individual accounts for personal autonomy, and complete transparency about both. Nobody is hiding anything. Nobody feels controlled. Both people have the security of knowing they are choosing to be in the partnership, not trapped in it by financial circumstance. If you are currently in a financial partnership that feels imbalanced, this is your permission to address it. Not aggressively, not accusatorily, but clearly and directly, with the understanding that true harmony cannot exist where financial imbalance lives. The conversation might feel uncomfortable for 15 minutes, but the relief that follows will last for years. Tip 6. Build your emergency fund around emotional security, not just financial security. Every financial advisor will tell you to build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses, they say. Put it in a high-yield savings account and do not touch it. And that is solid advice as far as it goes. But for Libra, the standard emergency fund formula misses something essential. You do not just need financial security in an emergency. You need emotional security. And those two things require different amounts of money. When a crisis hits, Most signs experience stress about the practical implications. How will I pay rent? How will I cover the repair bill? How will I manage until the next paycheck? Libra experiences all of that plus an additional layer of stress that is uniquely yours. You worry about how the crisis will affect your relationships, your environment, your sense of stability, your aesthetic standard of living. You worry about having to ask for help, because asking for help disrupts the balance in your relationships. You worry about cutting corners in ways that make your daily life feel ugly or diminished. These are not superficial concerns. For Libra, these concerns are deeply connected to your mental health and your ability to function effectively, so your emergency fund needs to account for them. I recommend that Libra builds what I call a harmony reserve on top of the standard emergency fund. This is an additional cushion specifically designed to maintain your emotional equilibrium during a crisis. It is the money that ensures you do not have to move to an environment that depresses you. It is the money that allows you to handle emergencies independently without creating obligation dynamics in your relationships. It is the money that preserves your dignity and your sense of self when everything else feels chaotic. The specific amount will vary based on your circumstances, but think of it this way. Your standard emergency fund covers survival. Your harmony reserve covers quality of life during survival. Together, they create a safety net that addresses both the practical and the emotional dimensions of crisis, and for Libra, both dimensions matter equally. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking that this sounds like I am telling you to save even more money, and you are already struggling to build the basic emergency fund. But here is the thing. When you frame your emergency fund as protecting your harmony and not just your survival, you become significantly more motivated to contribute to it consistently. Survival is an abstract concept until an emergency actually hits. But harmony, you feel the absence of harmony every single day. So reframing your emergency savings as your harmony account, your peace of mind fund, your balance protector, that changes the emotional relationship you have with that money entirely. It stops being a boring pile of cash sitting in an account doing nothing, and it starts being a living, breathing guardian of everything you value most. You will contribute to it more willingly. You will protect it more fiercely. And when you eventually need to use it, you will draw from it without the guilt that so many Libras feel when they spend from savings, because you will understand clearly what that money is there to protect. Start building your harmony reserve today. Even a small amount added regularly makes a profound difference, not just to your financial security, but to the ambient sense of calm that you carry with you every moment of every day. That calm is not a luxury. It is the foundation of every good financial decision you will ever make. Tip 7. Stop comparing your financial journey to everyone else's. This might be the single most expensive habit that Libra has, and it operates so quietly in the background that you might not even realize how much it is costing you. Because you are naturally attuned to other people, naturally observant of social dynamics, and naturally aware of how you measure up in any given context, you are constantly, unconsciously comparing your financial position to the people around you. Your neighbor gets a new car, and suddenly your perfectly functional vehicle feels inadequate. Your colleague mentions their investment portfolio, and you feel a wave of anxiety about your own savings. A friend renovates their kitchen, and your kitchen, which you loved last week, now feels shabby and outdated. These comparisons are not just emotionally draining, they are financially devastating, because each one creates a subtle pressure to spend money you would not have otherwise spent, to keep pace with a standard that was never yours to maintain in the first place. This is not about keeping up with anyone in an obvious, flashy way. Libra is too refined for that. This is a much more subtle version of the same pattern. You are not trying to impress people. You are trying to maintain what feels like an appropriate standard, a fair position, a balanced place in your social ecosystem. And that desire for positional balance drives spending that has nothing to do with what you actually want or need. The calm strategy is to redirect your comparison instinct inward. Instead of measuring yourself against other people, start measuring yourself against your own past. Are you in a better financial position than you were a year ago? Have your saving habits improved over the last 6 months? Are you making more intentional decisions about money than you were making 3 years ago? Those are the only comparisons that matter. And those are the comparisons that actually feel good, because you can almost always find evidence of progress when you look at your own trajectory. Another powerful practice is to limit your exposure to the triggers that activate your comparison instinct. This does not mean cutting people out of your life or avoiding all social interaction. It means being honest about which environments, which conversations, which media consumption patterns leave you feeling financially inadequate, and then creating boundaries around those specific triggers. Maybe you need to unfollow certain accounts that make you feel like your life should look different than it does. Maybe you need to redirect conversations when they turn into subtle competitions about spending or lifestyle. Maybe you need to stop browsing certain websites that are specifically designed to make you feel like you need things you did not know existed 5 minutes ago. These are not acts of deprivation. These are acts of financial self-defense. You are protecting your peace of mind and your bank account simultaneously. And here is the deepest truth about comparison that most Libras never consider. The people you are comparing yourself to are almost certainly not as financially comfortable as they appear. Studies consistently show that a significant portion of visible wealth is actually funded by debt. The new car might be a lease the person can barely afford. The renovated kitchen might have gone on credit cards that carry interest rates that would make you feel sick. The investment portfolio your colleague mentioned might be performing terribly, but they only talked about it on a good day. You are comparing your authentic financial reality to other people's curated financial performances, and that is never going to be a fair comparison. When you stop playing that game, something wonderful happens. You start making financial decisions based entirely on what brings genuine value to your life, and you discover that what you genuinely value is often much simpler, much more affordable, and much more satisfying than what the comparison game was pushing you toward. Tip 8. Turn your natural negotiation skills into a wealth-building tool. Here is something most Libras do not fully appreciate about themselves. You are one of the most naturally gifted negotiators in the entire zodiac, and you are probably leaving thousands of dollars on the table every year because you do not recognize this skill or use it intentionally. Negotiation comes naturally to you because of several traits that are deeply woven into your personality. You can see both sides of any situation. You genuinely care about creating outcomes that feel fair to everyone involved. You are attuned to the subtle emotional dynamics in any conversation. You know instinctively when someone is comfortable, when they are resistant, when they are ready to agree. And you have an almost magical ability to frame things in ways that make other people feel good about saying yes. These are not minor social skills. These are the exact same skills that professional negotiators train for years to develop. You were born with them. The problem is that most Libras only use these skills to maintain social harmony. You negotiate between friends who are arguing. You mediate family disputes. You smooth over workplace conflicts. But you rarely turn these skills toward your own financial benefit, because using them for personal gain feels somehow selfish or manipulative to you. It is time to release that belief entirely. Negotiation is not manipulation. Negotiation is communication aimed at finding a mutually beneficial outcome, and you are spectacularly good at it. Start by negotiating the things that most people accept without question. Your monthly service bills. Call and negotiate them lower. Many providers will reduce your rates simply because you ask politely and mention that you are considering other options. Your salary or rate. If you have not asked for a raise or increased your pricing in over a year, you are almost certainly undervaluing yourself. Prepare a calm, fact-based case and present it with the same fairness-oriented energy you bring to everything else. Large purchases. Never pay the first price offered on anything significant. Always ask if there is flexibility, if there are discounts available, if there are better terms possible. The worst that can happen is they say no, and then you are exactly where you started. But more often than you expect, they will say yes. Now here is the specific technique that makes Libra's negotiation style so effective, and why you should lean into it completely. Most people negotiate from a win-lose framework. They try to get the best deal for themselves at the other person's expense. That approach creates resistance and defensiveness. Your natural instinct is to negotiate from a win-win framework, to find the solution where both parties feel satisfied. And counterintuitively, this approach almost always produces better results for you, because the person on the other side does not feel like they are losing. They feel like they are participating in a fair exchange, and people are dramatically more generous when they feel the process is fair. When you negotiate a bill down, frame it as wanting to stay loyal to their company while keeping your budget balanced. When you negotiate a raise, frame it as wanting to continue contributing at a high level while ensuring the compensation reflects the value you provide. When you negotiate a purchase price, frame it as wanting to do business with them specifically while being responsible with your resources. In every case, you are telling the truth. You are genuinely seeking fairness, and that authenticity is your secret weapon, because people can feel the difference between someone who is trying to manipulate them and someone who genuinely wants a fair deal. Lean into this. Practice it. Make negotiation a regular part of your financial life, not something you avoid because it feels uncomfortable. The discomfort is temporary. The savings are permanent. And over the course of a lifetime, the cumulative impact of consistently negotiating from your natural position of diplomatic strength could easily amount to tens of thousands of dollars that would have otherwise slipped quietly through your fingers. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. Invest in things that align with your values, not just your portfolio. There is a reason why standard investment advice often feels hollow to Libra, and it has nothing to do with your financial literacy or your intelligence. It is because most investment strategies are built around one single metric: return on investment. Maximize the numbers, grow the portfolio, chase the highest percentage. And while there is nothing wrong with wanting your money to grow, that purely numerical approach to investing strips away something that Libra needs in order to stay engaged and motivated. Meaning, you are not a sign that can pour money into something you find morally questionable just because the returns are attractive. Your internal scales will not allow it. Every time you invest in something that conflicts with your values, a quiet but persistent dissonance starts humming in the background of your mind. You might not even be consciously aware of it, but it affects your relationship with your entire financial life. It makes money feel dirty, complicated, stressful. And when money feels stressful, you avoid dealing with it entirely, which leads to the kind of neglect that costs you far more than any misaligned investment could ever earn. The calm strategy is to build an investment approach that satisfies both your financial goals and your values simultaneously. This is not about sacrificing returns for the sake of feeling good. The evidence increasingly shows that values-aligned investments perform comparably to, and in many cases outperform, their conventional counterparts over the long term. Companies that operate ethically tend to have better long-term risk profiles. Industries that are aligned with the future, rather than clinging to the past, tend to grow more sustainably. And investors who actually believe in what they own tend to hold their positions longer, which reduces the transaction costs and emotional decision-making that erode returns over time. Start by getting clear about what your actual values are. Not what you think they should be, not what sounds impressive, but what genuinely matters to you at a deep level. Fairness, beauty, harmony, human connection, environmental balance. These are not just abstract concepts for Libra. They are lived principles that guide your daily decisions. There is no reason they should stop guiding your decisions when it comes to your investment portfolio. Then look for investment options that align with those values. There are more options available today than at any previous point in history. You can invest in funds that screen for ethical practices. You can support companies whose missions resonate with your sense of what the world should look like. You can put your money into sectors that are building the kind of future you want to live in. And you can do all of this while still pursuing competitive financial returns. The key is to approach this with the same balance that defines everything you do. Values-aligned investing does not mean ignoring financial fundamentals. It means adding an additional filter to your investment process, one that ensures your money is not just growing but growing in a direction that feels right to you. When you achieve that alignment, something shifts in your entire relationship with wealth. Money stops feeling like a necessary evil and starts feeling like a tool for creating the kind of world your Libra heart has always envisioned. That shift is not just emotionally satisfying, it is financially powerful, because you will engage with your investments more actively, more consistently, and more confidently when you genuinely believe in what you own. You will check your portfolio not with anxiety but with genuine interest. You will add to your investments not with reluctance but with enthusiasm. And that sustained engagement over years and decades is what truly builds wealth, not chasing the highest return on a spreadsheet. Tip 10. Build wealth at a pace that preserves your peace. There is an epidemic in the financial world right now, and it preys on people like you more than you might realize. It is the cult of hustle, the glorification of grinding, The belief that if you are not exhausting yourself in pursuit of more money, you are somehow failing. Work 18 hours a day. Sleep when you are dead. No pain, no gain. And while that approach might work for certain signs who thrive on intensity and adrenaline, for Libra, it is a recipe for complete financial and emotional collapse. Here is why. Your sign runs on harmony, balance, and equilibrium. When you push yourself past the point of internal balance, your decision-making deteriorates rapidly. The very qualities that make you financially brilliant, your ability to weigh options, your sensitivity to fairness, your aesthetic judgment, your relational intelligence, all of those shut down when you are running on stress and exhaustion. An exhausted Libra makes terrible financial decisions. You impulse spend to compensate for the joy you have eliminated from your life. You agree to unfair terms because you are too tired to negotiate. You ignore red flags because you do not have the mental energy to deal with them. You neglect your financial maintenance because everything feels overwhelming. The hustle approach does not build wealth for Libra. It destroys it from the inside out while creating the illusion of progress on the surface. The calm strategy, the strategy that will actually make you wealthy over time, is to build your wealth at a pace that preserves your inner peace. This means setting financial goals that are ambitious but achievable without sacrificing the things that keep you balanced. It means building income streams that align with your natural rhythms rather than fighting against them. It means measuring your progress in years and decades, not in weeks and months. The most powerful financial tool Libra has access to is not a strategy or a system or a product. It is consistency. Small, balanced, sustainable actions repeated over long periods of time produce extraordinary results. Contributing a moderate amount to your investments every month for 20 years will almost certainly build more wealth than going through cycles of intense saving followed by exhausted overspending. Making one good financial decision every week for a decade is worth more than making 50 aggressive moves in a single year and then burning out completely. This is not the advice that sells books or gets clicks. Nobody wants to hear that the secret to wealth is being patient and consistent for a really long time. But that is exactly the approach that is most aligned with your energy, and alignment is everything for Libra. When your wealth-building strategy feels forced, unnatural, or stressful, you will eventually abandon it. Every single time. But when your strategy feels calm, balanced, and sustainable, when it feels like you will stick with it indefinitely. And indefinite consistency is the most powerful force in all of personal finance. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are building wealth in a way that does not require you to become someone you are not. Other signs might need the pressure and the intensity to stay motivated. You need the opposite. You need the spaciousness to think clearly, the calm to make wise decisions, the balance to sustain your effort over the long haul. Give yourself permission to build wealth gently. That permission is not laziness. It is the most strategically sound decision you will ever make. Everything you have heard over the course of this video comes back to one essential truth about Libra and money. The approach that feels calm is not the second best option. It is the best option. It is the only option that actually works for you in the long run. Every other approach, every intense strategy, every restrictive system, every hustle-driven plan, they all collapse eventually because they violate the fundamental principle that governs your life, which is balance. And when balance is violated, everything built on that violation eventually crumbles. But when you build your financial life on the foundation of genuine equilibrium, something remarkable happens. Your decisions get better because you are making them from a place of clarity, not panic. Your relationships with money improve because you are no longer fighting against your own nature. Your wealth grows steadily because you are not sabotaging yourself with cycles of extreme effort, followed by extreme exhaustion. And your daily experience of life becomes more peaceful, more beautiful, more harmonious. Which is exactly the life your Libra soul has been craving all along. The 10 strategies in this video are not abstract ideas. They are practical, actionable shifts that you can begin implementing today. You do not need to tackle all of them at once. In fact, trying to do everything simultaneously would violate the very principle of balance we have been discussing. Pick the one or two that resonated most deeply with you. Start there. Build those habits until they feel natural and then add the next one. Layer by layer, strategy by strategy, you will construct a financial life that does not just make you wealthier. It makes you calmer, happier, and more aligned with who you truly are. The world is full of financial advice that asks you to become someone else in order to succeed with money. Faster, more aggressive, more analytical, more detached. This video asked you to do the opposite. It asked you to become more fully yourself. More balanced, more thoughtful, more attuned to harmony, more committed to the kind of sustainable excellence that Libra embodies when operating at its highest potential. Your calm is not a weakness in the financial world. It is your single greatest competitive advantage. While everyone else is making panic-driven decisions, you are thinking clearly. While everyone else is burning out, you are sustaining. While everyone else is chasing the next shiny opportunity, you are building something real, something lasting, something beautiful. Trust that. Trust yourself. The calm path is not the slow path. It is the path that gets you where you want to go and lets you actually enjoy being there when you arrive. You have two options after this video: close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.